Julie Haddon, you were a little bit of an athlete, yeah?
Oh,
Back
yeah.
in the day?
Oh, yeah.
What was your sport?
Well, I played Little League long ago before girls did that. I actually was a pitcher. I had a killer curveball and a fastball, and it was early 80s. And fun fact about me was, I was two things as it relates to baseball. One, I left my bat mitzvah to pitch a doubleheader, which my favorite picture of all time is me and 200 people in my backyard in this massive tent where I am off because I have a doubleheader against Baskin-Robbins, and I was leading the pitching, and I just left everybody. So that was the culture I grew up in my family of baseball fans, where that was actually acceptable. I also was the first-round draft pick amongst 150 boys.
What?
When I was 14. And I always have been in that kind of defying gravity type of a role where you go left and everyone goes right, because they were trying to tell me at that age as a freshman in high school that I had to play softball, but that whole underhand thing compared to being an overhand pitcher was what I loved to do and what I was good at. So I always played Little League.
I never understood the underhand thing, but one question, did you change out of your bat mitzvah dress first?
I did.
Okay.
I did, but I still had that really fancy Farrah Fawcett hairdo.
Oh, yeah.
With the feather and everything. I still had the little flower in it when I was getting into the car to go pitch. I had the best hair on the
styling.
field. I was styling. Even I had my little
underhand
my
with the
pinstripes
flip.
and my Farrah flip.
Jen Kavanagh, were you an athlete, or are you still an athlete?
I definitely wouldn't classify myself as an athlete now, but growing up also in the Midwest, like Julie was you're in Chicago, right? Or suburbs of Chicago. I was in St. Louis. Swimming was a big thing, so you were a member of your kind of local club. You'd compete against each other, and that continued for me beyond living in St. Louis and for a short time after in Florida. So
strokes?
Free and fly were my best.
Okay.
I was not a good backstroker at all, and I hated butterfly. But yeah, no, I also had Farrah Fawcett hair, except for me, it was Blair from The Facts of Life. So I had a favorite babysitter who would hot roll my hair and make it happen. But yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm just going to fill everybody in for a second, because we just started this conversation, and I'm talking to Julie Haddon, who is the Senior Vice President of Global Brand and Consumer Marketing for the NFL, and Jen Kavanagh, who is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Media for the Philadelphia Eagles, as in you moved from the fly in swimming
to fly Eagles. Fly.
See that?
Wow.
See how I pull it all
good.
together?
I do. That's terrific.
We're going to get more insights about what these women are up to in the career of football in just a second. Hey, it's E.B. Moss, Head of Content Strategy for MediaVillage, the home of the knowledge exchange for those in media, marketing, and advertising. We cover everything here on Insider Insights, from addressable advertising to audio, programmatic to programming. So take a listen to Insider Insights at MediaVillage.com. So this is an incredibly exciting moment for me to sit here with not only two really amazing marketers who have some big responsibilities, but they happen to be two women from the NFL, one on the league side. Do we call it a club, Jen?
Yep.
One on the club side and one on the league side, right, Julie?
That's right.
See how much you have to educate me? What I want to start with is really to get a little bit of a treetops understanding of what the heck you guys do. So Julie on the league side and Jen on the club side, see? What are your specific business goals?
Sure. Well, I can talk about that. So I have two hats, if you will, that I wear. My team is charged with global brand and consumer marketing, and that means the expression of how our brand comes to life across all touch points, whether that is an advertisement, whether that's a consumer activation in market, whether that's a product that you're engaging with on the internet or mobile app. Our team that I lead is charged with the brand expression and how it comes to life, as well as the monetization and revenue and goals that support consumption. So under that hat, that would be properties that I'm charged with leading the marketing for and the promotion, such as Thursday Night Football, NFL's network, which is a 24-hour cable network, NFL Network, the number 2 cable network behind ESPN for sports. The properties such as our direct-to-consumer subscription service called Game Pass, our mobile app with Verizon, as well as the NFL app, NFL Films properties, and all the marketing for our commerce properties like NFL Shops, NFL Tickets, and a whole bunch of things that drive direct-to-consumer revenue and value for how we engage our fans. On the other side that I started with, in terms of the expression of the brand, that area are things like, the creative, all the advertisements you'll see on television, the content marketing, the uniforms on the field, the cause platforms such as Salute to Service, A Crucial Catch, My Cause, My Cleats, Thanksgiving, we have a big initiative where we work with the players that airs. So things we do to support causes, youth participation, player health and safety. So both from a brand perspective and a product marketing and engagement perspective is what I look after at the NFL.
Julie, I'm out of breath. That's unbelievable. And where did you come from to be able to do both of those hats and all of the steps in between?
Well, it's funny. I kind of feel like the NFL is the culmination of the first 2 chapters of my career, or the first 2 parts. So the first part of my career, I started out working in sports and entertainment. I actually worked for the Dodgers right out of college. While I was in college, I worked for Bobby Knight in Indiana, go Hoosiers. And I was very involved in sports early on in my career. I went into a product marketing role where I had the job of doing product marketing and actually writing the back of baseball, football, and hockey trading cards, and got very deep into like content, if you will, what content was if you go back 15 plus years ago. I then moved into the world of entertainment, and I was in charge of marketing animation for the studio that did DreamWorks hits like Shrek, Madagascar, Sinbad, Spirit, Over the Hedge, Shark Slayer, or actually became Shark Tale, but all those feature films that were CGI animation is kind of what I did in the beginning part of my career. Chapter 2 was when I traversed over into the digital side. I'd always been in the digital entertainment world, but then I decided I was really excited in I'd say like early 2004, 2003, with what was happening in Silicon Valley, where I was living, and I actually fell in love with this company called eBay. I read a book called The Perfect Store, which was a kind of a case study about how Pierre Omidyar started eBay and what it was initially, Pez dispensers and laser pointers, this marketplace where buyers and sellers come together to transact. And so I found that a very interesting business, and I wrote Meg Whitman an email, who I did not know, and said I want to work at eBay because I need to learn the internet. So I spent a few years at eBay. From there, I went over to to be in charge of the mobile marketing unit for PayPal when we were just getting into mobile payments. And I had a whole stint of tech companies after that. I was very, very early in Twitter, where we were less than 10 people there. I was part of the founding team early on at SoFi, worked at Zynga. So I had a whole bunch of like tech companies. And then throughout that stint of working in tech and then having worked in entertainment and sports, this opportunity came up in 2016 where the former chief marketing officer of the NFL, her name is Dawn Hudson, had reached out and said, there's this event in San Francisco, you live in the Bay Area, we need someone who knows sports, we need somebody who's entrepreneurial and can get stuff done fast and could go all in on an event that's in 3 months called the Super Bowl Women's Summit.
Wow.
So it was like, where do I sign up and say yes? Before she can even get that out of her mouth, I was on board because it was a culmination of a dream of having worked in kind of sports myself, but this intersection of sports and entertainment and digital and activation and putting a big event together. So shortly thereafter, Dawn took me to dinner and asked if I wanted to join the NFL.
Wow.
So I joined the NFL in the latter part of 2016, and I've been at the NFL I think about 3.5 years now. And what I love about the job that I do now is it is the culmination of the entertainment and sports, which was first part, mixed with these innovations, all the technology, whether it's mobile, whether it's web, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's crowdsourcing, whether it's social, all the things that I've done in the second half of my career to kind of bring together for the NFL job. And it's been an extraordinary ride.
It sounds phenomenal, and I'm very happy for you. I mean, it's not frequent that we have the opportunity to tap into all of our passions, let alone our skills. So it sounds like they're lucky to have you. And Jen Kavanagh, you on the other hand, did not have really much access, or not access, but you didn't have much hands-on experience in the sports world, right?
That's totally fair. And in fact, as I'm listening to Julie, who's clearly an underachiever, by the way, talk about her journey, both her responsibilities at the NFL and then how she got there, I realized how many similarities there actually are. So if you kind of take what Julie expressed as, her role and responsibility on behalf of the NFL brand, it's actually very similar for us at the clubs as CMOs. We're both responsible for, our every single fan touch point that's out there, our brand, how it lives and breathes, how it grows and maintains relevance beyond just 16 football games a year, and then how we create compelling experiences that are both good for the fan, the brand, and our corporate partners, because at the end of the day, we are a business. And so there's so many similarities there that I felt like that was worth noting. And then in terms of the journey, it's true, this was my first job in sports. And to be quite honest with you, I'd never contemplated sports before. I always looked at sports and news as really amazing categories that you could only work in if you majored in them in college and only ever worked, in those businesses your entire career, that you just had to have all this depth that was so specific. And what I think is so interesting about Julie's journey and my journey is it's a reminder of how much the world has changed and how much media has changed and how much brands are changing. So when I started out, I was designing and developing websites, like literally HTML. And then I was curious about, well, once I build it, how am I going to get people there? And so then I got one of the first SEO certificates that ever existed, and knew things about cloaking and all those old school sort of techniques and how you get consumers to visit and engage with commerce brands online. And then from there moved to New York and worked for a small agency, basically in affiliate marketing. So my clients were the New York Times and Verizon, and they were obviously looking at the internet as a meaningful and efficient way to drive subscribership via, a network of media partners and affiliates. And that was really great. Then I got an opportunity to explore a role in television, which is where I stayed for about 6 years at NBC Universal, first as kind of a VP of digital marketing and then head of, all of their kind of digital strategy. And it's funny because at first, the role of digital, I think, was not as clearly understood to be for the benefit of TV. It was almost this thing that sat separately. Mm-hmm. And so just to kind of bring it full circle back to this evolution that we've seen, we started from a place of, me sitting in a meeting and saying, hey, I think we should put go to oxygen.com on the lower third of the screen during this show to get people to the website that we built and we're investing in. And people were concerned that would actually take eyeballs off the television. And what we all know today, fast forward many years later, is that these brands and these platforms, don't exist in a silo and really rely on each other to be successful. And, so that's what's I think so cool about where we are. And so when this opportunity at the Eagles came up, it was not that difficult for me to understand the relationship between, working in mostly unscripted programming designed to engage young females on all platforms, and they were such early voracious adopters, it was a dream come true, to this other kind of reality, mm-hmm. right, with talent and storylines and platforms that needed to be filled with compelling experiences that would attract fans and ideally keep them there. So while it feels a little unusual, at the end of the day, I would say all of those things kind of culminated into something that made a lot of sense for me and has now, 16 months later, been really enjoyable.
I've had the benefit of speaking with both of you just for a few minutes in the hall, but also watching the way Jen and Julie interface with each other. And I'm curious about if there is some kind of deference that you feel towards the head of marketing for the NFL. And Julie, did you have any influence over the hiring of any of the club CMOs? How does that work?
Well, I'll start with...
You're kowtowing right now for those who can't see. No. Kidding.
No, I think it's admiration and a lot of respect. And coming into the NFL as a new person who, was very familiar with NBC Universal and its kind of governing body, coming into an entirely new world where you don't know a lot of people and have, those established relationships. I'd say, Julie was one of the first people I met and is, a huge champion of all of the marketers at the clubs and, certainly women in the NFL. So I would say we developed a relationship very early on. And it was, it was terrific.
And I remember I had gotten an email from some of the ownership, the Eagles, and it was, hey, can you talk to this recruiting firm? We're looking for a CMO of the Eagles. And when I saw Jen's name come through, I spoke with them about, what I think we really need to look for in a club CMO and a modern thinker and somebody who understands the power of storytelling and analytics and data, how you not just could create content, but how you distribute it, how you monetize it. And I was really excited about Jen when she came in. And I just think that the Eagles are doing, a lot of our clubs in doing some tremendous work around how do they bring the brand to life, but how do you become the local depot, if you will, of the NFL, the chapters, if you will. We have 32 clubs that are all extensions, and everybody has their own flavor and their own unique history and folklore and fan base and challenges and opportunities that they have. So I was really excited when we met Jen, and I also give a lot of props to Jeff Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, because there's a wonderful article that came out about 2 months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, which was about the bench of the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's in the Wall Street Journal, and it talks about women at the top of the organization, and there's a great group shot of Jen plus 4 of your colleagues.
Yep, saw
then you
that.
look at this executive bench. I even forwarded that article over to Commissioner Goodell, and I said, look at the great things the Eagles are doing, and he had already seen it.
That's excellent and also inspiring, as the Eagles have been for me, actually. About, 10 years ago or so, when I was doing a lot of green marketing, I used the Eagles as one of my bars that other organizations should try to aspire to. I think Go Green was launched in around 2003, and you talked a lot about some of the purpose initiatives that the Eagles are doing. And Julie, you've talked about the NFL purpose initiatives as well. I want to go down that path for a little bit because I think that given the fact that so many brands need to corral their purpose and communicate that in today's environment, let's talk about what the league is doing and what your club is doing. Who wants to start?
I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's 2 parts. It's one part, what is right and what is your responsibility as a brand in the world today, and then also what is important to your fans, and where can you kind of align on your values and your mission in order to deepen that relationship. And green, as you mentioned, is something the Eagles have been committed to for a very long time via Go Green and all of those initiatives. Our stadium is LEED certified, which is, I couldn't tell you all the details of what it takes to get a LEED certification, but I do know it's not easy to get, and it requires, a tremendous amount of, consideration in your establishment in order to do that. In addition to that, and a lot of other amazing things we do in the community that fall under Eagles care partners, Eagles Autism Foundation is a big area of focus for us. So we are in kind of our 2nd year of fundraising via an amazing event that we put on every May called the Eagles Autism Challenge. But Eagles Autism Foundation is a new brand that we created and launched this year to basically capture everything we do in that space, which is primarily dedicated to bringing, awareness to action. And so, the funds that we raise, we feel a tremendous responsibility to manage other people's philanthropy in a way that, ensures that money goes directly to the research that we believe is going to create the kind of action in the near term that we see as possible. So that is not even, I would say, just a part of our good initiatives, but if you watch any game, any Eagles games, you'll see that both of our end zones are wrapped in Eagles Autism Foundation. So it's impossible to kind of extract from the core brand itself. So, and that was by design,
Yes.
to really put a flag on the ground and say this is what we stand for and this is who we're here to help.
We just did an interview with the president of Publicis Media Americas, Tim Jones, who's on the board of Autism Speaks, and that's because MediaVillage as well is very involved in all things diversity and inclusion with our Advancing Diversity honors, and he's being honored for that. So I'm going to give you a verbal honor for helping to advance that awareness for autism as well.
We have an amazing team. I can't take the credit. Ryan Hammond, who runs that at the Eagles, is an absolute rock star, and everyone who supports her is great, and we're all in as a team. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Julie, there's so many initiatives that the NFL is involved with. You mentioned one in the beginning. If you want to go into My Cause, My Cleats, and anything else that comes to mind.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I think to Jen, what Jen was talking about is some of the great work that we see happen at the club level. At the league level, we create platforms that often the clubs participate in and bring down into the 32 markets. We have a calendar set of initiatives, and they really do well with our younger fans, especially because younger fans love to get behind brands that show that they care. And NFL is a very caring side of it, and it's a great opportunity for us to take these calendar initiatives. So come October, we have a Crucial Catch, which is all about cancer awareness, and it moves into November, which is where we are right now with a program that's called Salute to Service, which is focusing on military. We move into December, which is My Cause, My Cleats. And then we move into January with a big initiative around Inspire Change, which is social justice. So if you want to talk a little bit about My Cause, My Cleats, it's actually one of my favorites we do every year. So My Cause, My Cleats actually gets the players to design their favorite cleats. So it's something that's really fun for us because we have about 655 players that are very active with us that we work out of our player social team to focus on, to help drive the players' social awareness. And so the players as stewards of our brand, the players with helmets off, the players as leaders and heroes in society, and what they bring to their local community is something that is a very important part of our marketing strategy. We think a lot about how do we unlock this for the players to go out and do storytelling or show their unique personality or their unique causes that they care about. So every player, I don't know if you have anyone on the Eagles that you can think about right now as an example. But
yeah, our quarterback, Carson Wentz, has a foundation called AO1. You'll see him in his AO1 t-shirt, in pregame warm-ups. He'll wear his AO1, cleats during My Cause, My Cleats. But I just to give the league props, not only do they put forth some really amazing initiatives that we get to kind of individually personalize for ourselves and celebrate, but My Cause, My Cleats is one where I just got to see the sneakers that we designed for Eagles Autism Foundation, which are designed with a spectrum.
Super cool.
They're going to be so cool, and we've got a number of players who'll be wearing them in addition to staff. So the way these guys have set these initiatives up just really allow us to kind of personalize and then just blow it up, on a club level.
And the players have so much fun with that because they get to be their self-expression and individuality and their personalized causes. So they really enjoy this promotion.
So this opens up so many areas that I want to talk about in terms of marketing and media and things like that. We talked about the need for brands to show their authenticity and their association with a purpose to appeal to youth. So let's just get this one out of the way. Are we seeing attrition in terms of the fan base with youth and the concerns around health issues and kids getting into the game? And how are you marketing to counteract any of that sentiment or perception?
Well, I think there's just a proliferation in general of youth as it relates to any media brand right now. You have different things that are 12 to 17, 8 to 12, 17, 18 to 24. I mean, kids today have all sorts of consumption choices. So whether it's social media, whether it's, esports, gaming, kids in where I grew up, there was television and you watched the TV, and that's your version of how you interact with the game. But now you've got mobile and social and all sorts of choices. And our play is we want to be where our kids and our fans are. So we look at it from a standpoint of, as we look at ushering in the next generation of fans, we have our linear games. We have the games on ESPN, CBS, NBC, and Fox. We have games on mobile. Live streaming of games like a Thursday night franchise with Thursday Night Football, where we're on Amazon and we're on Twitch. We deliver our content on all forms of all places where fans are, young and old. We think about future-proofing our brand. We think about how do we continue to bring in younger fans and make the game cool and authentic and open up the players as advocates or the clubs to help work with us. It's about the storytelling and how we reach this younger generation. Even things that we did recently, like the Super Bowl spot I was talking about earlier, but we put Ninja in the Super Bowl spot, who is, millions and millions of people watch Ninja play Fortnite.
So he's a gaming influencer.
He's a gaming influencer, but everything we do is about how do we get these influencers in the genres of fashion, in the genres of music, in gaming. It's stuff that young kids care about, because the game, it just needs to be consumed a different way than a different generation before. And how do we find touch points that are relevant to pop culture that make the kids engage with our game? So I think that's one of the areas as we think about is how do we bridge generations and how do we get more kids excited about the game. And as part of that, it's a strategy that we kicked off actually with our Super Bowl spot back in February of this year, where we launched in 2019. You saw people like Mean Joe Green and Franco Harris and Jim Brown, and people that, Jim Brown's probably early 80s, 84, 83, and then people like Saquon Barkley and Todd Gurley and Juju Smith-Schuster that are early 20s. And so you have 6 decades that transcend between these players, and what you're able to do is get youth really excited about it, because while my favorite player might be Franco Harris or my dad's favorite player might be Jim Brown, my kid's favorite player is Juju. And you get to have the whole way of what football, which has been woven through generations and generations, and let our fans get excited and enjoy the game.
And we should absolutely mention that this is the 100th anniversary of the NFL, which is remarkable. It's part of, as you said, the fabric of our society. Jen, what are you doing that's innovative to appeal to the youth audience and attract a new fan base?
Sure. So first, I think it's important to say the NFL, from certainly what I can tell and have experienced, has always been dedicated to youth in some way, shape, or form, even in, via youth cheer initiatives or youth football initiatives. Youth is not new. It is, as Julie said, I think perfectly, about how we look at new and emerging platforms as ones that create a new opportunity to connect. And so, for us, a lot of it has been via original content that brings people closer to not just the game, but the players, the brand, subjects that are I would say culturally connected to football, but not about the X's and O's. So food is one of those things. Certainly fashion, we're dipping our toe in comedy. And, we've got a mission basically to entertain Eagles fans 365 days a year. So that means we have lots of days that aren't in season that we need to fill with programming that is meaningful. And we're doing that on social platforms. We're doing that on our owned platforms. We're creating not just original streaming content, but podcasts have been really fun and really popular.
7 podcasts now?
We do. We have 7 original podcasts now, and year over year, training camp to date, we're up about 65% in total listens. And so the continued investment in more episodes is really paying off for us. So that's been tremendously fun. But I would say probably the most recent and remarkable has been TikTok. So the league in early September did a multi-year deal with TikTok. For those who aren't familiar, TikTok is owned by a company called ByteDance that acquired Musical.ly. So that was on, I think, September 3rd that deal was announced. September 4th, we created our TikTok account and really leaned into what TikTok was all about, right? We didn't try to, just repurpose content from Instagram and Facebook. We had been kind of tracking what it was that people were loving so much about it, and and just decided to jump in head first. And in, I would say just a couple of months, we've been fortunate enough to bubble up as the most followed team in the league, at least for the moment, and maybe even more remarkable since early September 4th to be exact. We've generated over 30 million views on one platform, and that's incredible. And I'll just say it's incredible also not just for engagement purposes, but given the platform is predominantly 12 to 24, and what we see and what TikTok shares with us in terms of the gender breakout, it's 61% female. So the bubble over my head says, wow, is this a new meaningful channel for reaching young women, if not young fans in general?
I want to add to something Jen said too, which is, we are all 365 days on. So the whole strategy for us at the league, and I think, certainly at the club level, we all think about how might we engage our fans the whole year. Yes. It's not just about September until February. It's about the bowl games that these wonderful, incredible athletes are coming right out of in December, January, moving right into the combine, the scouting combine in March, then going into the draft in April. 2 months later after that, they're into the training camps, and then the preseason starts, and then the whole season starts again. So our job is to help showcase these incredible athletes and their journey as they go from morphing into a college star into a pro. So by the time someone like Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield take that first game, the field, in their September of 2018, where they debuted in one of the greatest Thursday night football games ever, you see this ascension, but you know who they are. We actually made a campaign called Know My Name, because you're watching them through these periods of rising. And what's so exciting about football is you could be playing in a bowl game in December, January, versus another sport where you may have to go to the farm leagues and play for the Arizona Scorpions before you become Mike Trout into becoming a baseball player. You spend a couple years in the minor leagues. You can literally be playing in a bowl game, and then 3 months later you're in front of the draft and you're going to get picked, or in combine, and then into draft, and into the training camps, into the preseason. And it's just such an exciting thing to see some of the youth and some of the stories that come out every September once we get past the preseason, and you start seeing people like Gardner Minshew come through, or Jackson, or just Aaron Donald. Just so many of these people that have come through that are these stories that are either heralded and you watch them and you expect them and you see, can they follow through? Kyler Murray, and will he become the Heisman guy that became the guy that went a baseball career into football and the draft pick? Or are there the ones that come out of nowhere that are just a 20 round or something like that, and they're just phenomenal?
There are so many stories within what each of you said. There's the player awareness and growing the brand overall. There is maintaining the brand throughout the year. There's the verticals. Jen, you're talking about creating content around fashion and food. I guess in your case, you're talking Philly cheesesteaks or what?
You got to get in the Philly cheesesteak when you're talking to Philly.
Absolutely. I understand that you have gyms on your list.
I do have gyms on my list.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going to have to do a episode.
I did a lot of serving when I moved to Philadelphia and really worked hard to prioritize, but I kind of feel like,
Okay.
When you work at the NFL, you get to go to the different cities, and one of the treats is you get to go to Kansas City and experience Joe's barbecue. And you go to gyms in Philly, and you get there's chili in Cincinnati and Graders. There's just like, the NFL has some wonderful markets that have some incredibly historical, iconic
I get to eat
food.
Chicky and Pete's because they're one of our corporate partners, and their food's amazing, and everywhere you go. So the Philly food scene is incredible.
I understand that you have great catering at NovaCare also.
I will say we have a tremendous food setup. So Flick is our partner in that we have executive chefs and a whole staff of people who look after not just the needs of the players, but of the staff. To the extent that one of our chefs is the host of our food podcast called Feeding the Birds.
I love it.
It's great, where we sit down with coaches and players and staff and local purveyors of the food that we eat at NovaCare, just to not only talk about how it relates to football, but just the nostalgia of food. Like, who can't relate to some kind of food story? But they are truly part of the family, and we are definitely spoiled.
So back to some of the implementation and how we have to embrace all kinds of channels in today's environment. I do have a cool little stat that I found for you that I thought was interesting. An organization named Conviva had their streaming report come out, and their Q3 report shows that NFL streaming scored a 77% increase in plays last quarter, and by plays, in this case, I mean streaming starts, not in game terms. 77% increase in plays last quarter, but that was led by streaming on mobile devices and then connected TVs, and streaming on PCs actually went down a little bit. So overall, it's incredible that NFL streaming is up 50% year over year. So how are you embracing all of those different platforms now, and do you approach marketing the product differently for those different channels? I'll ask either of you.
Well, I could say we use Conviva at the Eagles, so shout out
That's
to Nick
because
Cicero.
you're showing up really nicely
I guess so.
in all of their reports.
No, it's actually not surprising to me at all. I mean, I think, sports is probably one category that really punches above its weight in terms of mobile and adoption there, but the fact that people are consuming more video on mobile devices is like a secret to no one, I would imagine. The league has just recently launched their connected TV app, which gives us by extension the ability to offer more streamed programming inside of those SVOD environments that we know are key. I think in terms of how we market them, it's about making sure that fans know they can consume content that they care about on each of these platforms, but also making sure that we're being very native to the experience, and it's not just about plastering the same thing everywhere, as Julie well knows, and any marketer at this stage understands as this landscape is fragmented, but really about being as personalized and thoughtful about what it is that people want on which platform at which time, in order to succeed, and making sure that you have clear definitions of what good looks like in each of those cases, and that you're not measuring, a mobile initiative and using a linear KPI to decide if it worked or not. So there's a lot to kind of pull apart and put clarity around, but I think it is really about personalization at the end of the day.
Well, I do have to say that must be hats off or helmets off to you, because thank you very much.
Good one.
Thank you. Well, you should take some credit, I think, because Philadelphia had a 23% increase in streaming, and you were a top 4 metro of all the teams for streaming consumption, according to Conviva. So
we create
awesome.
Hundreds and hundreds of hours of original content.
You never sleep.
There's a huge commitment there. No, it's core to the strategy. It's what Eagles Entertainment is all about. It's what our corporate partners tell us they want to be involved in and want more of. So that's great to hear and not surprising.
And I think it's what younger fans want, to be able to access whatever content on whatever platforms
wherever they want. Exactly.
I mean, I know
right.
that is a marketer you've heard that for years, but when you look at something like 9 of the top 10 television shows are NFL, 38 of the top 40 are NFL live games, there's still an incredible demand for our product. And it's such a great product. It's the ultimate ground zero of reality TV. Yes. Just talk to anyone who watched last night's game, where you watched an overtime of an undefeated 49ers up against the Seahawks.
That was incredible.
And it was incredible, and the exhilaration, and it just becomes the best of what football brings, is this real-time, completely unbridled entertainment that is just exhilarating. And so whether you're watching it on a platform that's a linear, or you're watching it on a mobile device, a connected TV, streaming it on Twitch, I mean, we just want to make sure that whatever our fans, wherever they are, we are delivering the game for them.
Well, to wrap it up, I'll come full circle. We started talking about your women in sports, your women in the NFL, which is phenomenal. I also know that women are one of the NFL's fastest growing fan bases. Julie, earlier you cited that it's like 46% of the fan base and growing, especially in the younger set of women. And, I mentioned that I was a daughter of a sportscaster, and back in the day, a long time ago, I wasn't even allowed to sit in the press box. So how do you account for that, and what are you feeling great about for the future?
I'm feeling great that, 59% of women 12 plus are fans of the NFL, which is higher than any sport. I'm feeling great that our fastest growing segment is women. And as everything we do, not just to continue to reach women as a segment, but, making sure that we're inclusive as a brand. What a joy it was this year working as the executive producer, co-executive producer with Jane Goodell and Bill McCullough on a feature documentary we created called A Lifetime of Sundays.
It was amazing.
Wasn't it fun?
So
it was just such
amazing.
a great story. Thanks.
Yeah,
thanks.
Very touching.
And it's 4 female team owners.
It is. It's as we enter our 100th, or as we wrap our 100th year now that we're in it. You take a look, when you watch A Lifetime of Sundays, it's the story of Virginia Hallis McCaskey. She's 96 years old. She's the founding matriarch of the Chicago Bears, the club owner of the Bears. You've got Martha Firestone Ford, who is the owner of the Lions. You've got Norma Hunt, the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, and Patricia Rooney, who is the Rooneys of Pittsburgh, of the Steelers. So you chronicle the lens of football through the lens of these remarkable women. I mean, Norma has been to every single Super Bowl, 54. Will be going on 54 Super Bowls. Her husband, Lamar, actually named the word Super Bowl. It's in the doc. You have to watch it. You can learn about why.
I saw the trailer and I'm already in love.
Virginia McCaskey talk about how she bought the Bears for $100. She's 96 years old, and here we are in our 100th season. Her father named the National Football League. So, it's just such an incredible story when you think about what women were doing and the plight that we have now as women executives. Think about what these women did in the 40s, a true lifetime ago. And, it's just such a remarkable story to watch that. And it's heartwarming, and it's funny, and it's tender, and it's informative. Anybody who likes football, I think, will enjoy this, and frankly, great story regardless if you like football or not. That's what we're seeing with the audiences who've watched it.
I will be linking to that in our article that will accompany this podcast. Jen, Julie, this was probably one of my favorite topics, favorite things to talk about, because I'm so gobsmacked, if that's a word, by both of you. I love what you're doing for the sport, and they're fist bumping right now. You can't really see this, but here, I don't know if we can hear that.
Now we're all fist bumping each other.
Yeah, it's great.
Ballers.
We'll try to get the visual on that. I'm just going to end it here because it's all downhill from here.
Thanks, E.B.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For joining
Thanks for
me.
having us.
Thanks for listening to Insider Insights from MediaVillage. I'm E.B. Moss. Rate, review, subscribe on Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. And for a longer transcript of this show and more insights and thought leadership on media marketing and advertising, go to MediaVillage.com.